Hello, 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 everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you. Welcome back. We're going to be starting a new book today, a rather short book. And speaking of that, if you caught my short, you have an idea of what this book is about. It is called One Truth, One Law. I am, I create. We are all God. We have just forgotten. And this book is written by Erin Werley. So this, as I said, this book is rather short, and I think we're going to start out with the introduction by the author and then the introduction by I am. And basically, in a nutshell, we have read a book like this before on this channel. In fact, we've read a few that the information is given to the person who's presenting it in the book, but for a lack of a better term, it has been channeled or received through the author. And in this case, the energy that's coming through, for a lack of a better term, refers to itself as I am. And if you're familiar with that term, I am is God's name. That's what God said his name was. Now, whether we call him universal energy, whether we call him source, whether we call him God, higher power, or just the universe, totally up to you, whatever you're comfortable with. But just keep an open mind as we go along through this book. It is supposed to be a very profound read. So without further ado, let's get started. So this is the introduction by Erin, and I always read the introductions because it gives us a very clear understanding of where the book is going to go, why it was written, why it was created. And that is a very important thing to know with many of the books that we read in order to understand where the author is coming from. So let's go ahead and dig right in. Introduction by Erin. I know you feel lost sometimes. I know you wonder who you really are and why you're here. I know sometimes it feels like everybody else has it figured out while you're sitting on the sidelines. I know this because I used to feel the same way. I was in my late 20s, but I was still that same scared girl who had been picked on in school and always felt alone, no matter how many people were around me. I always felt like everyone else had it figured out, and the best I could do was pretend to be like them. I didn't trust myself, so I trusted other people to give me advice about what I should do with my life. I'd never stood up to anyone ever, at least not about anything important. Basically, I was a mess. But I felt something. I knew there had to be more to life. So I read self-improvement books, lots of books. I started thinking more positive thoughts. I started to love myself a little more, bit by bit. Then one day I saw a channeler on the internet and read one of her books. She seemed to understand life in a way that I didn't, all because she had a secret weapon. Somebody who knew what was really going on was contacting her from another dimension. I wished I could do that, but I didn't believe it was possible. I mean, who was I anyway? Why would an advanced being waste time on me? So I kept reading books, trying to figure out the meaning of life and figure out if there was a purpose to it all. One night, everything I'd been reading just clicked, and I wrote in a notebook, "We are all God, and we are all one." Full disclosure, I had no idea what that meant when I wrote it down, but it came out of me onto the paper. I went to sleep, thinking nothing of it. The next day in the shower, I remembered what I'd written the previous night, and I asked out loud, "Am I God?" I wasn't expecting an answer, but I must have been open to it because I heard a voice in my head say, "Yes." I knew immediately it wasn't my voice. It sounded the same, but I hadn't thought the thought. It was just deposited in my mind. And those deposits kept coming. This book is a series of conversations between my husband Phil and my inner voice. During the summer of 2011, I lay down on the couch in our cramped one-bedroom apartment in Virginia Beach almost every day. Phil would ask me questions, and my inner voice, who calls itself I am, would answer out loud through me. We recorded those conversations on a tape recorder. Can you believe we were still using tapes in 2011? And we transcribed them. We were excited about what we were hearing, but we were young and lacked confidence. I was sure everyone would think I was crazy, so I didn't want to share what I'd learned. In the 8 years since then, I've grown a great deal. So when I pulled the transcripts out of the basement last summer, I was blown away to realize, in retrospect, how much my life had been influenced by what my inner voice had said. However, this book is not really about me or my husband. It's about you, because your inner voice has been waiting to talk with you throughout your whole life. You remember that feeling of being lost that I mentioned at the beginning? You feel that way because you've been separated from your inner self, who desperately wants to be found. This book will show you how to tap into that voice. Once you're talking to that wise part of you, you won't need this book anymore because you are God, and you don't need anyone else to tell you who you are. Introduction by I Am. My name is I Am, but you've probably spent your whole life referring to me as God. My name doesn't matter. What matters is who I am and who you are. I am everything. I am all that exists. The non-physical world is a collection of thoughts. The physical world that you live in is simply a projection of each of those thoughts. Everything that you see, feel, hear, taste, and smell in the physical world has been created by my thoughts. You are a projection of an almost infinite number of thoughts. Each time you have a new thought, it begins in the non-physical world and is projected into the physical. What you call your consciousness exists in the non-physical and is projected into what seems like a real physical world to you. I am constantly projecting all the thoughts of billions of people into the physical world. I am each of you. Your thoughts are mine. There is no separation. You are God. You think you are someone else because I, and therefore you, have unlimited creative power. You have the ability to create a persona and believe it's real, that you are an individual. It's not the truth, but since you created it, it exists in the physical world. There's so much more to know, and I'm so excited to share it with you. But for now, that's enough to get you started. Let's talk about you and why you're holding this book in your hands. You've spent your whole life being lost. Somewhere, no matter how deep inside you, you've always wondered why you're here. Where did you really come from? Why does everyone else seem to have it together while you're just barely holding on? How come they seem to belong to some secret club that already knows all the answers? There's a reason you're holding this book. Your life experiences and desires led you here. If you have the courage to set aside what you think you know, this book has the answers you've never quite been able to grasp. If you have the courage to read with a truly open mind, you won't ever have to search for the truth again. You will know who you are and why you're here. In fact, if you follow the prompts in this book, you may begin talking with me yourself. You may begin hearing my answers to your questions in your head. With practice, it is possible. Erin will keep writing more books because it is joyful for her to create them and it is her purpose. But you should stop reading them once you've begun to hear my answers in your head. At that point, you will be able to find out your purpose and begin to create it. You won't need to know the answers to Erin and Phil's questions. You'll be able to get the answers to your own questions. Anyone who tells you they channel something without encouraging you to do so yourself will never lead you to your real answers. They haven't found the truth themselves. This book is all about learning to listen to yourself, your true self, who is God. I love Erin just as I love all of you. I am always trying to come through to you. Every creative thought you have is me. Every negative, doubting thought you have is your persona. For years, I tried to make contact with Erin through her writing. She would sit down and write in a sort of trance state and have no idea what she was writing. When she was done, she would read something like this and be amazed and wonder where it came from and what it meant. Dress, why are you dancing? This is an example of the things that she would write. And then underneath it says, because the air moves me. That's funny. I didn't know dresses could move by themselves. We don't. We only move when the air moves us, just like you. What do you mean? You only move when you're moved. You mean I don't move me, something else does? Yes, you're not who you think you are. Who am I? You're lost. That's something Erin wrote long before she found me. I was always trying to get her to listen to me, but her persona was blocking me. Have you ever experienced something like this? Something you couldn't explain. I would bet you have, because you are me just as much as Erin is. And so I know you've always felt lost in a way you couldn't quite grasp. I'm always trying to come through to you in any way I can. I want to be found. I don't want you to be lost. I want you to know who you are. You are God, and there is nothing more powerful than you. You create your world with your thoughts, whether or not you realize you're doing it. You are a living, breathing embodiment of God, and I love you so much. Please read this book as many times as it takes to begin to understand my words. Then, instead of forgetting about it, practice listening to me yourself. Follow the steps in this book. I've been knocking at the door of your consciousness your whole life, and I'm so excited that you're close to letting me in. Okay, so to let you know further on what's going to be the breakdown of the book, we have sections that are broken down into days, not chapters. And some of them are relatively short and some of them are a bit longer. And when I say long, it's not really that long. So I don't imagine that this is not going to be an extensive read that's going to take a ton of videos. It is a quicker read, but no less important, if not maybe more important for many of you, especially if you find yourself pulled in to the words that I've just shared with you. If I'm holding this book or if you're listening to this video, there's a reason for that. Stick around so that we can read this together. And in reading this together, how many days do we have to read through? Let me just look at the front rather than flipping through it for you guys. So I understand this is a different book, but I ask you to keep an open mind and set aside any types of deeply rooted beliefs about God and who we're taught God is and where we're taught God is. If you're still holding on to that, that's okay. Many of us were raised from the very beginning to have very specific beliefs and ideas about what we are supposed to believe. But if you find yourself questioning and you find yourself here, allow yourself the gift of knowledge. You don't have to take it in and believe it if you choose not to. But if you're here and you find yourself interested, stay around and listen and see what you get from it. We're going to go over 10 days of interview. It's set up in a question and answer type of that's how the book is set up. So each one, day one, they're going to go through questions and answers from each session over this roughly 2-week period that they did this. So I'm really, really excited to jump into this with you. And I thought about putting it off, but I really want to read this, and this fits my channel content perfectly. So I really wanted to bring it to you guys as well. I had some other books in mind, but I came across this one, and I want to get started with this with you guys and on this journey. So stick around, and in the next video, we're going to be breaking this up. There's 10 of them. So 2 to 3 days per video is what we'll be reading. And yeah, I hope that you guys will join me for this. I love you all so much. We're going to stop right there with the introductions. I'll let you take that information in, and then we will read day 1 and day 2 in our next video. I love you all so much. I will see you again soon. And until I do, take care of yourself and take care of those around you. See you next time. Bye-bye.